Well, last week we brought you the story of a coronial investigation into a young woman's suicide after she was allegedly bullied and harassed over an injury compensation claim. Since then, we've had many calls from people who say they've experienced similar treatment. Cheryl Hall has followed up by looking at growing concern over links between workplace injuries and suicide.
For more than a decade, the Uniting Churches Creative Ministries Network has been trying to find the common factors that lead people to suicide. John Bottomley says watching Rebecca Wallace's story of how she injured herself at work and later took her life rang alarm bells.
It's a familiar story to us, and it'd be a familiar story to many people working in health and safety, particularly in the trade union movement.
Her mother, Vicky Pedersen, alleged in our story last week that her daughter was bullied and harassed after applying for workers' compensation.
The work cover system sucks. I believe the insurance companies are bullying. I would love to know how many people suicide on work cover.
Rebecca Wallace applied for injury compensation not through work cover, but through the Commonwealth Authority Comcare. John Bottomley trawled through the Victorian coroner's records and found work injury was a major factor in a number of suicide cases.
We found from the coroner's database something like 109 cases of work-related suicide over a period of about 20 years. And of those cases, we identified about a third had been caused, or a contributing factor was a work injury.
In 2009, commissioned by WorkSafe, Mr Bottomley then moved his search to the Victorian Authority's records, but found only 19 cases of suicide over 30 years.
We thought that was the tip of the iceberg because of the various ways in which underreporting takes place. So Vicky's question is a critical social policy question for the state to address.
Any improvement in data would help us all, the coroner and ourselves, there's no doubt about that. But I think you've also got to look at the causation, and when the coroner finds that information, some of those people that they'd be referring to may never have put in a workers' compensation claim.
It's a concern that has occupied AWU Health and Safety Officer Yossi Berger, who says people talk to him about suicide as a way out.
The suffering that this young woman experienced is reasonably common. Once an injury occurs, they then have to substantiate to a whole range of people that they were injured, that it was not their fault. At one stage I did a quick estimate, and in my view it's almost like there are 40 to 50 hurdles in the process of getting somewhere.
WorkSafe says it's obliged to scrutinise applicants.
It's incumbent upon us to find the facts. So we do have to ask questions, but we have to do it in an empathetic way. There may be some sets of circumstances where it's not quite clear whether it is work or not.
The Coronial Council of Victoria's latest annual report says the rate of suicide is thought to be underestimated due to issues with the reporting process. There is a clear need for quality suicide statistics to underpin public health initiatives, including suicide prevention. But it's not so simple to decide if a death is a suicide, according to Senior Counsel Ian Freckleton.
The mindset that they had in doing what they did is unclear or ambiguous. It might be that they were trying to draw attention to themselves. It might be that they were upset at the time and trying to harm themselves. It may be that they didn't actually intend permanently to bring about their demise. It's still a very stigmatising description to say that someone has committed suicide. Many family members bitterly oppose that kind of finding from a coroner.
The AWU wants WorkSafe and other bureaucracies trained to recognise the risk factors.
I think there is a lot they could do, but first of all they would have to find a corporate heart. They would have to train and educate people about the human spirit.
I think we do have a heart, and we are concerned with the way in which people are treated from the moment they put in a claim. Any suicide that we have or are aware of, then we try to learn from that information.
The Uniting Churches Creative Ministries Network says more research is urgently needed.
Our research all indicate that healthy people going to work can find themselves with suicidal thoughts or on the edge of suicide because they've experienced a work injury and their world collapses. Vicky described that eloquently and poignantly for her daughter's tragic journey, and it's a journey that too many people are going through still.
And we urge anyone who needs help after watching that story to contact Suicide Line on 1300 651 251. And we should also point out that Rebecca Wallace applied for workers' compensation through Comcare, not WorkSafe.